should pee before we start this thing. Fuck. I'm scratching my balls and the thing.
No, shut up.
Hey!
Hello.
Shout out, hello.
We are live here in Casa de Christopher.
Yay!
In Indianapolis, Indiana. There's a OnlyFans convention in town this weekend, so
male OnlyFans.
We of course got invited because of the podcast. So
Exactly. That's the whole reason. 100%. Ricardo's OnlyFans really took off, and
the convention is called Almost OnlyFans. So
Almost Farm.
That's what we got in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Almost porn. Yeah.
Okay, stop. You're doing a good job, and then you went there.
That's what OnlyFans is, right?
Almost porn.
Almost porn, guys.
Yep. Ricardo, why don't you tell everybody about your OnlyFans?
I don't have one. What are you talking about? I don't have an OnlyFans.
Wow, way to ruin the joke.
I mean, I do, but for feet only. Only feet. Have you been on Only Feet?
I haven't been on OnlyFans.
Only Feet is a real thing.
Is it because you're like, you have
Yeah, Donald Duck is really popular on OnlyFeed.
Yeah.
That's weird, because he has a screwy penis. The penis is like all screwy. You know?
Let me ask you a question. Do you have bunions on your
Is
feet?
that a clinical condition? Screwy penis? Is that like a... Did you see a doctor for that? Can you...
All ducks have screwy penises. Want to check it out? We'll check it out.
Okay!
I think if you search that, we're gonna get arrested by the FBI.
Yeah.
We're gonna get arrested by the FBI.
Please don't go onto Google. Don't do it. Oh my God.
Are we still streaming? Did you just?
Yes,
end
we're
the
streaming right now.
There you go, dude. That's a screwy duck penis right there.
Oh God. Get off this page, please. Go back.
Get on.
Please, for the love of God.
Fucking gross.
Oh God.
Thank
Here
God
we go.
you didn't
Oh
share
no!
that.
Don't do it! Don't do
Fucking
it! You fucking ass.
Fucking do it.
Here we go.
There we go. That's the duck penis.
We're getting banned.
Look at that duck penis right
my-
there. Look at that duck penis
Okay.
right there. To go, dude.
Everything that's happened before this.
Hold on.
Our podcast.
You
is
can't
now,
see my face. You can't
our
see my
podcast-
face.
This is nature.
Our podcast is now.
This is
banned.
nature at work.
Oh God.
That's
Well,
nature right there. Look
all
at
the
that.
hard work.
I do not consent.
All that hard work. is
I do not
thrown
consent.
Out the window.
I do not
You're-
consent. Turn
You're
it off.
now
Okay, you're
banned.
good now. You
All
got
right,
it, you
we're
got
good.
it.
We're
Turn
good
it
on
off.
the duck penis. Hold on.
We're now
Okay,
banned
there
from
you go.
posting
Stop,
YouTube.
please.
No, we
Love
don't have a
God.
G rating anyways, guys, we're here in Indianapolis, Indiana for the BigTen Championship this weekend between Penn State and Oregon. It's going to be an awesome football game. In the meantime, we're chilling over here at Chris's house here in Indiana in some motherfucking suburb somewhere where it's 19 degrees outside. So thanks for joining us.
15.
15
17.
degrees. We're going to talk a little bit about some football.
14. 12.
Penis!
Chris gonna do
Penis!
Chris is going to follow up with some of his leadership series, and we'll talk about digital pricing, the Hunter Biden pardoning, and how academia and school really prepares you for the real world. A little dissertation by Mike, who lost horribly to darts to both Chris and I earlier.
Really?
before
We're
we
bringing that
started
up
the podcast.
Not his strength yet.
Definitely
Not yet, not
Definitely
yet.
I
not.
bet him and Shelby would be a good match though.
Well, we can shout out to
Okay.
He's getting better though.
Glenn Fittich or Glenn.
No,
I have
it's
no
not
idea.
Glenn Fittich. It's
Tito's.
Glenn Levitt.
Tito's.
Jesus.
Tito's.
Shout out to
We're-
Glenn Levitt.
We're drinking this podcast if you haven't noticed.
Mm.
So.
All right, guys. Well, let's talk about this championship because apparently I don't really know a lot about it.
We know you know nothing about it.
So tell me about the college football championship.
Okay. So what would you like to know, Ricardo?
So just
How does
break
it
it
work?
down. Like I just jumped out of a plane from Switzerland,
Okay.
escaping persecution, landed in Indianapolis this weekend, and I want to go to the party. I heard that's where the party is. It's a lot of fun. What's going to happen this weekend here at
Well,
the
first
stadium?
we know if you jumped out of a plane, you didn't have a parachute. So when you landed, you were done. This weekend is Penn State versus Oregon, and it's wasn't supposed to be this matchup, believe it or not. It's supposed to be Oregon versus Ohio State.
Yep.
Ohio State last weekend got
Bombed.
upset by Michigan.
Ooh.
Go Michigan!
Go
Michigan!
Blue.
So we're gonna give you a little bit of a breakdown of this game, kind of what is going on. I'll give you my opinion. I'm a Penn State and Oregon fan. I lean a little bit more Penn State because I've gone to more of their games at their stadium. Chris is an Oregon fan, so he's going to give you a little insight from the Oregon side. So let me give you a little insight on my opinion on the game. First, as much as I love Penn State, and I think Penn State has a great football team, I think Oregon does have an advantage on this one. Oregon's offense is on a whole nother level. Even though Penn State's defense is a good defense, they have a great front four, good middle linebackers. Oregon runs and plays in a high-paced, system. I think Penn State's going to get tired by the third or fourth quarter. I also think one of the biggest components of this game is coaching. I think Oregon's coaching staff blows out Penn State. I think James Franklin.
We've already talked about Franklin earlier.
Yeah, I talked about Franklin a couple of weeks ago.
I
talked about Franklin a couple of weeks ago and how he couldn't win the big game. I'm going to predict Oregon wins this game only because Franklin has not won a big game. And I can't, say that Penn State's going to win this game if the track record shows that they lose every big game. You just can't say that they're going to win. Now, Penn State has a dual backfield, which they have phenomenal players. They can control the game by running. Drew Aller has showed that he can throw effectively against certain teams. But one of the biggest problems with Penn State's team, just in general, is the big game. They should have won. They
should have beat Ohio State.
They should have beat Ohio State, but their talent, the schedule that they played this year hasn't been that strong. The best way I could put it.
Because what's it? Minnesota they had a close game with?
Minnesota, they played USC very close.
Yeah, USC.
They blew out, I believe it was Maryland this past week. Maryland is Maryland, so you can't really have you can't compare that.
Football and crab cakes.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's head-to-head matched up, and so we struggled against Maryland. Oregon struggled against Maryland. The argument that I've heard from a lot of people about the Maryland game is that Oregon had played 8 consecutive conference games when they played Maryland.
Stop. Take that fucking off. That banner.
Who keeps selling uranium with a black marker?
What is wrong with you?
Marker?
Mark, yeah, I'll correct you.
Black marker?
Yeah,
I'll correct you.
Sharpie. Just put Sharpie. Yeah.
I swear, dude. You are unbelievable. Every week there's a new one.
Just ruining our fucking messages.
Good.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I'll fix it.
No, delete the whole thing. Don't fix marker to market. Delete the whole thing. Oh, God. I'm sorry, Chris. Earlier he said Mike's take showers with his clothes on, and now all of a sudden he writes this one. I guess I'm the butt of the jokes this week, but continue, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, so the argument that I heard some of the analysis from was, that Oregon was the only team that played 8 consecutive Big Ten conference games in a row, and so they looked tired against Maryland.
Yeah.
And it's great as an excuse, but a lot of people were also just turn the fucking thing, man. A lot of people were also talking about how everybody else has a slip up. Right, and Oregon somehow managed to not slip up against Maryland, which Maryland's a good football team.
Yeah, but it's not like Oregon.
7-5 or something.
Doesn't have Oregon's offense.
No, but they're coached well. They're still a talented football team. But when they played Penn State, we were talking about the last game of the season. They're already bowl eligible. I think probably a lot of seniors were ready to fucking go to the NFL or whatever. Who knows. But honestly, this is the one game, I know everybody keeps picking Oregon to win, but Oregon has always struggled historically against good front fours.
It's true.
So when we played Georgia, blown out. We played LSU in the...
Talking about the college football playoffs?
No, so we played Georgia 2 years ago in Dan Lanning's first game at Oregon and lost like 35-7 or something. Bo Nix's first game in Oregon, and Dan Lanning's first game in Oregon. And Georgia had a fantastic defense that year, and then we won like 10 straight after that or something. But we played LSU in I don't know, 2016 in the AT&T Stadium down in Dallas, and LSU held the line of scrimmage, and we struggled against Ohio State in the national championship game. They dominated the line of scrimmage. We struggled. Even when Bo Nix beat us, when Auburn, Bo Nix scored like a touchdown late to win. I mean, Auburn controlled the line of scrimmage, and Oregon struggled. It's basically in the past, definitely under Chip Kelly, definitely under Mario Cristobal. Whenever a defensive team held the line of scrimmage, we struggled significantly.
Oregon.
Well, not to cut you off, so if you were ever an Oregon fan, you realize when Chip Kelly was there, they were strictly offense. This year's different because they're a more rounded team. They're
100%.
They have the offensive firepower, but they also have the defense capabilities. And that's what makes this Oregon team unique. That's the reason why they were able to beat Boise State earlier in the year. That's the reason why they were able to beat Ohio State. All those tougher games they were able to win. Now, so when I look at Penn State, because I watched a lot of Penn State's games, they have talent. Can they put it all together to beat Oregon in the big game? And my thing is do they have the talent to stay in the game with Oregon? 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
At a certain point, though, it's coaching and preparing them, and it's game calling. And if you go by history, their game calling, their coaches have not done a good job of big games. So James Franklin is already on the hot seat, in my opinion. If he loses the game on Saturday in the championship,
It's over for him.
I really believe he's going to be even further on the hot seat. By the way, not to mention, if you look at recruiting and the talent you're bringing in, Penn State this year has taken a step back. Oregon has one of the top 10 recruiting classes with five stars. They're bringing in talent.
They're already like top.
They're already top. They're bringing
year,
in talent.
yeah.
Penn State
They
is.
flipped to Ohio State 5-star.
Yeah, they did as well.
Yeah.
All right, so predictions, guys. Who do you think is going to win, Mike, this Saturday?
I think it's Oregon. I think Oregon's going to win. History has demonstrated itself that James Franklin can't win the game. He doesn't prepare his team 100% for those games, and his coaches don't make big-time decisions in those games, and they always lose them. Look at his record of top 5, top 20 teams in the country. Hasn't been a good record. So I have to go with Oregon, even though I'm more of a Penn State fan.
Mike says Oregon. Chris, what do you think?
But we know this one.
I think if Oregon can score 30 points, we got the game in the bag. I think 3.5 is the spread's 3.5, and I think that it's either going to be a 10-point game or Penn State's going to win. I don't think there's a middle.
I think so. My thing is, I think Oregon's going to put up points because they always do.
Nobody asked.
I think they have the talent. What? Shut up. I think Oregon's going to put up the points because they always have. I think it's Penn State's offense.
Yeah.
Can they stay with them? And do I think Penn State has the talent to do that? 100%. But that falls on coaches making the right calls and calling the game effectively, especially the offensive coordinator. I don't see it because Penn State plays a pro-style system where Oregon plays a fast-paced system.
Yeah, there were some people talking about the coaching in the Maryland game and how like he went for it on 4th down and they made some stuff and they're like, oh shit, like they threw it in the kitchen sink because and everybody's saying like Penn State's playing with house money and like if you don't just go for it on 4th down and just like throw caution to the wind, I mean, what are you playing for at this point? I think that if Penn State just fucking goes ham. They go for it on a couple 4th and 2s. Like
they're most likely going to, and I'll tell you
yeah,
why.
I think if they
They're
can win
already
those,
even if Penn State loses this game, they're still in the college playoffs.
100%. Yeah.
So what happens is if they lose this game, they might not host a first round home game. They might be the 9 through 12, but they're still in. So I just want to bring up one point here. Oregon plays fast. Penn State plays slow. Key to Penn State in this game. Penn State's key in this game is to slow the game down so Oregon's offense can't explode and they can't run the pace and can't score. If you slow the game down, you hold the ball, you don't allow Oregon to have the ball, and if your defense plays well enough where you get a couple of 3 and outs, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think the game for Penn State, if you're gonna like draw up a game that Penn State wins, you want to hold Oregon to like a scoreless drive, like a short 3 and out, or maybe like 1 first down or whatever, and then have a long 70-yard, like 7 to 9 minute
plays
drive that results in a touchdown, and then give the ball back to Oregon. And that if Penn State can do that, put up 21 points and do that, I think Oregon will struggle.
Absolutely.
But if Oregon goes down the field and scores on the opening drive, Penn State's going to be in trouble.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So I have to go with Oregon. Penn State hasn't demonstrated itself to win the big game, even rivalry games. So I got to go with Oregon just based on past history. I think it might be a little bit closer than people think. I think the line is right in favor of how the game's going to end up. Only reason why I say that is I think Penn State's smart enough to know that they have to slow the game down.
I mean, they're talented. I mean, they have arguably the best defensive player in college football, and they have a really good running back, or whatever we want to call them.
Running back.
I mean, this is probably one of the most talented football teams outside Ohio State that Oregon's played. Boise State's running backs, obviously. I mean,
but Boise State's not a whole, they're not a well-rounded team.
No.
So my whole thing is watching Penn State's a well-rounded team, and it's just going to be, I think it's going to be more coaching. How do you prepare your team for this game? And
it'll be interesting to see for sure.
The reason why I'm predicting Oregon to win is just past history, and that's what you have to go off of. Also, I think Oregon's schedule this year was a little bit more challenging than Penn State's schedule. I think they played harder competition.
I can't believe they fucking Ohio State played in Penn State and fucking still.
Well, do you not remember the last basically drive of the game? They were at the like.
Well, Penn State didn't they turn it over like twice in the red zone?
Well, the whole thing with Penn State in that last drive is they were driving and then they had literally I want to say it was 8 plays within the 10-yard line, and they couldn't get it in. They had 4 plays within the 5, but they couldn't even get in.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the play calling
and
at
that
the end of
they have like a
Tyler.
Fucking
the guy is in. He's
going
to be an NFL tight end, but he is so well rounded.
The only tight end that even competes with him on an athletic level is the Oregon tight end, but he's not. He's not. They're not on the same level.
Yeah. And the problem I think Warren's going to be.
Brock Bowers is probably the only tight end we've seen that's even.
And he's throwing up a serious year right now with the Raiders. So, all right.
All right, guys. I think Oregon's going to win.
Original question.
Oregon's going to win.
Question. Chris once dated a vegetarian. Yes.
Oregon. So Oregon
college football playoff though. This is what you originally asked for.
Yeah.
Asked for, right? So 12-team format.
Okay.
There's an automatic spots for the 5 conference champions. The
4 conference champions.
Well, the 5th come. So that's the 5th seed. So 4 conference championships automatically get the first round bye, and the Mountain West Conference Championship automatically gets into the tournament.
Yeah.
Right.
So whoever wins on Saturday.
So the teams that are playing in the BigTen Championship, both pretty much there's no debate if they win or lose. They're in the tournament. It doesn't matter. SEC Championship, winner or loser, both teams are in no matter what.
I don't know. Do you think Georgia, if they lose, they're going to be in?
Well,
because then you have
the
Tennessee,
only debate.
Georgia,
The only debate for any of the games is if it's so. Even if Oregon goes and puts fucking 50 points on Penn State, they're not playing in the college football championship.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, if any of these games are blowouts in the championship game,
I
have a hard time seeing the committee. And what I don't like about that is you're getting penalized for making it to the college football to making it to your conference championship game. So that's the thing that I don't. So like the one game that everybody is like, there's two games, right? ACC and
Well, the ACC is the big game.
It's the big one, right?
Because if SMU, I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
SMU wins, they are guaranteed a spot. Clemson, Miami.
Clemson's out if they lose.
Clemson's out, but Miami's not in. So you're really basically constricting the ACC to a one-team conference.
Right, but see, that's the thing. Like for me, so what I don't want to see is teams being penalized for making it and losing. So like SMU is in, and if they lose, I think they should be in.
But they're not going to be.
No.
I mean, you know,
I hate to put it this way.
know,
The reason why they won't be in it is all of the committee members will argue that all
Showers?
no, all the committee members will argue that their strength of schedule is not strong enough. They played BYU and they lost at home against BYU, and BYU is turning out around to be a decent team, not an amazing team in the Big 12. So the problem is, I can't see them putting SMU in the.
Yeah, but like what bothers me is like, you know, in previous years with the 4-team format, you know, we had undefeated teams, and like you're always arguing about the fourth team, right? But now this year, like Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State, aren't those the only teams with one loss?
Yep.
With Texas
No, Ohio State has 2 losses.
So
One loss.
Oregon is
Penn
undefeated.
State, Texas.
Oregon's undefeated. If Penn State loses, they'll have 2 losses. Texas only has 1 loss.
Texas
If
has
they
one
lose,
loss.
they have 2 losses.
But like everybody else has 2 losses, right?
Alabama right now is in, but
They have 3
Fuck
losses.
Alabama.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying.
Alabama.
So like,
shut the fuck
all
up,
these
Gardy. You have no
teams-
idea what you're talking
So now, like the top quartile of the bracket all has 2 or 3 losses. In previous years, it was usually like 2 or 3 undefeated teams and like one loss team, and there's usually like 3 or 4 one-loss teams that we were arguing about the final spot.
Yeah, trying to figure it out.
This year, there's 12 teams, and this is the year that more of the like big programs have 2 or 3 losses. Like Alabama's lost 3 times, Georgia's lost twice, Ole Miss has lost 3 times.
So
I
saw something unique, and Alabama. They were talking about why Alabama is in the CFP right now, and as much as I do not like Alabama, I don't think that. First of all, I hate Tuscaloosa. I do not like Alabama.
Really? We didn't know.
Yeah. Did I tell you? I hate Alabama.
Oh, yeah, no, if you have seen the podcast before,
Yeah. Fuck
maybe you might
Tuscaloosa.
know.
So,
Like Alabama?
as much as I don't like them, there was a committee member that talked about their wins versus the losses and who they lost to. Now, did they get blown out by Oklahoma?
No.
100%.
They
There's
did.
no excuse.
Yeah.
Did they lose to Vanderbilt? Yes, they did. Did they lose to Tennessee? Yes, they did. Okay, but Tennessee's is in the college playoff. Oklahoma is a down year in the SEC. Did they get blown out? Yeah, they.
But they lost by 3 touchdowns to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So a 7-win team.
Okay, so my whole thing though is, if you look at their wins, they have 3 or 4 wins against top 25 compared to some of these other teams. You got to look at the whole resume. I hate them. I wish they weren't in there. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think they should be in there in certain perspectives, but you have to give credit where credit's due. And if you're looking at them against some of the other teams, do I love Miami? I love Miami. I think they are. Do I have a bias towards Miami? Yes. But Miami lost a couple of games, but to be honest with you,
here's the thing. What bothers me so much is like, you look at SMU, okay?
yeah.
They haven't really played anybody profound. They don't get to choose. The players aren't choosing their schedule, right?
Well, that's all that.
Right.
You made a great point.
And so, what I don't want to see, right? Alabama should have beat Vanderbilt, should have beat Oklahoma. So there's 2 games. Like if they had won one or both of those games, there is no question Alabama's in.
Mm-hmm.
But they lost 2 games to teams they should have beat. SMU. Right, I mean, like, they're winning all their games.
And it's not close. They're blowing out teams in the ACC.
Even if SMU lost, they would be in a New Year's Eve bowl.
Yeah.
Right, and so like,
I hate you, Ricardo.
So to me, like what I don't want to see is like you're penalizing the players for
Yeah,
winning all the games on their
That's on your schedule, yeah.
and then getting to the championship game, and you're saying that if you go to a championship game and lose to a Clemson team, then you shouldn't be in the 12-team playoff.
Well, the problem I have is in the SMU
Because if Alabama goes and plays Georgia, they're going to get their asses
This is
kicked.
the problem. This is the problem that I have. The SMU athletic director made a great point. He was like, "We play teams. Okay, they might not be ranked. Okay, because they're 6-6 or 7-6 or 7-5, whatever the case is. But these teams have played other schools and played. For example, Georgia Tech versus Georgia. Georgia Tech took Georgia
Eight
to
overtimes.
8 overtimes. Okay, so
They should have fucking won that game.
and they should have fucking won.
Georgia should not even
to
be
turn
in the
around
SEC championship.
and to turn around and diminish the teams that they play and say, "Oh well, Georgia Tech's not a top 25 team." Bullshit. They still have the talent. They still played good against Georgia. Okay, so you can't diminish what they did and the talent that they have. They took a BYU team that was the one.
Right?
SMU, yeah.
And they didn't take them to 8 overtimes.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is, and with Pittsburgh, by the way, when they were in the top 25, SMU dismantled them. They beat, at one point, I think it was like 35-3 or 35-7. It was at a point where it was just like, it wasn't even a game. So I don't like this bias towards the bigger schools or the bigger conferences.
The bigger programs.
Yeah, the bigger programs.
Yeah.
They have more resources.
Yeah, well, that's, you hit it right on the head. So, one of the things.
So let's argue. So if Alabama was in the SEC championship game
And they lost.
they
shouldn't be there.
and SMU was in it and they lost, who gets in?
I still take SMU.
I think that's an argument. If you're saying that Alabama was going to play in the SEC championship game and lose, do they get in over SMU? And
No.
if that's the conversation, then Alabama should be out, SMU should be in.
But I think Alabama should not be in right now.
Right, yeah.
So where I get thrown up because I hate Alabama. Did I tell you anything about that? I hate Tuscaloosa. So my thing is.
Fuck Alabama.
So real quick, have you seen Landman yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, dude, Landman. By the way, great fucking show. But Billy Bob Thornton has a conversation. So his daughter is dating this guy who's gonna go to Alabama. And he tells her, "Oh baby, I talked to Nick Saban. We're getting in," and Billy Bob's like, "Nick Saban doesn't even work at Alabama. What are you talking about?"
he's
And then he breaks up with her. So like the guy breaks up with his daughter, and he's like consoling her. He's like, "Fuck Alabama." And I was like, "Yeah, Mike was right. Billy Bob.
I gotta watch it.
Billy Bob says, "Fuck Alabama." I was like, "Yeah."
That's me.
What a great segue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about leadership in the virtual world?
You go.
So what we've learned is Ricardo doesn't want to talk about college football anymore.
No, I'm bored, man. I don't care about those pedophiles.
All right, so here's my take. This is like one of those key important things about virtual leadership, right? So what I've seen people do, and this is a mistake, okay?
Just have
You're
sex
online. Your only interaction with your team as a leader is online.
Yeah.
I feel like that table's gonna fall over any minute. So
5 minutes.
So here's what happens, right? You interact with the people on Teams or whatever media interaction is, right? Whatever the medium is, right? And you're having conversations with them about work, whatever it is, right? And then
You start jerking off.
something happens, right? And you
Jerking off.
need your team member to do something, whatever it is.
Send news.
So guess what you do? You either send them an email or you call them and be like, "Hey, this thing happened, blah blah blah. I need you to fix it." Cool, good to go. Well, if that happens over time, and the only time that you're interacting with this human being is whenever you need them to fix a problem, then they're only going to think that you need them to fix problems. So what you need to do
Invite them to the bar.
is break up your interactions with these other people, with your team members, by just like having conversations. So set something on the schedule for a conversation with them that has nothing to do with you needing them to do something. Just say, "Hi, how's it going? How's your family? What's going on?" Because like people don't want you all like, "Oh, boss is calling me, it means he needs me to do something. You know, that means you need to add something to my workload. Oh my God, one more time. And it's like, you just repeat this thing over and over again. Finally, they'll be like, I don't want to answer the phone when he calls me. So you got to break up the monotony a little bit, and in between those phone calls where you need them to save your ass, call them and ask them how their family's doing. Ask them if you can do anything for them. Ask them if, you know, whatever, just so that you're having human interaction with these individuals that isn't you asking them to do something for you.
So let me ask you a question. Since you're in a leadership role, so is it more of a personal, get to know each other on a more personal level, where you're having more personal conversations, so you're not always asking him, teach me this, or do this, or do that? Is it more of like, hey, I want to talk with you, I want to get to know you because I'm invested in you, and I want to have a conversation because I see there's a potential for growth?
When do you just send nudes?
So it's much more difficult because there isn't any like face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so like that whole, you know, scuttlebutt, you know, like the
What's a scuttlebutt?
Scuttlebutt is the conversation at the water fountain where you're
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, telling stories or whatever. That doesn't happen in the virtual world because you only have scheduled meetings. You're only interacting on like certain things, right? So there is no random human connection. So you have to, it requires you to go a little bit above and beyond what you would normally do, because otherwise it's a transactional relationship.
Yeah.
And what I did before, and you can do this, you don't have to do this if you want to, but
You should.
is I would schedule every week a 30-minute meeting with the whole team where all we would do is just drink coffee and bullshit.
What about if I just schedule a 30-minute massage?
That's also
For
possible.
myself.
Yeah.
So one thing for me that I do, which is in different perspectives, because you have a team that you do that you're dealing with. I don't have a team. I do have a team, but I have only a couple of individuals. One thing I like to do is call. Hey, how's your day going?
Yeah.
How you doing? How's your workload? It's how's your grandkids or how's your family doing? I always make sure that I'm more on a personal level, because if there's a personal touch to it, where you're genuinely concerned to that person and you're genuinely interacting, you're trying to get to know more, you're talking about certain things, like for example, family. How's your weekend? How was your Thanksgiving?
And not work related.
Not work related. You generate or you have a bond with that person in a different perspective. So leadership is not just about getting the most productivity out of an employee, but it's more about also making sure that employee has, has a feeling of warmth, comfort, knowing that somebody's caring is looking over them or trying to make sure that they're okay in the workplace, making sure that there are people that care that they're happy with their job.
Hey, let me ask you this: do you guys shower with your employees?
Oh my god! So the analogy that I always use when I talk about this is like,
I'm gonna kick you in the head.
Investment capital, right? So like for me, if I ask you for something, so if I call you and I'm like, hey Mike, I need blah blah blah, right? Cool. Well, guess what? In Mike's subconscious mind, I've now gone into the red because I haven't done anything positive, right? Mm-hmm. And so if the next time I call Mike, I'm like, hey man, I need you to do something, I'm just slowly drifting more and more into the red, right? And so what you have to do in a leadership position is build yourself capital in the black. Mm-hmm. So you call and say, hey, how's the family? Hey, how are things going? Can I help you with anything? And actually help them follow through. And all you're doing is building a buffer.
Or rapport.
You're doing all of these things so that when you need something from them, it doesn't push you into the red. You already have this kind of buffer built in where you're doing all the things, the right things of leadership, where you're saying hi and caring about them as individuals, helping them in their role, maybe trying to get them promoted or whatever it is that they need.
Yeah.
And so that you're just constantly always building a buffer. So that when adversity happens, which it will eventually happen, and you're like, hey man, I need you to work extra because blah, 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 they're happy to do it because you've done all this stuff to prep for it.
So there's a unique thing. So I've worked for family-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and I've worked for corporations. One thing I will turn around and say is I feel like in family businesses where there's entrepreneurs, it's more of a personal touch to it because you don't have the hierarchy. So the owner of the business or the founder of the business is always interacting with everybody in a more personalized method because they're like, okay, I don't have as many employees, so I can sit there and talk to how's the family, how's everything going. So I looked at it differently. So when I started working for corporate America, I realized, okay, taking an interest, like I have this one legal secretary now, or legal, you can't say secretary, assistant.
Executive assistant.
Yeah.
Break-in mediator.
So I know she has grandkids.
Lay out the whiskey.
I know she has grandkids. So one thing I did is last year I gave her a bonus, but the one thing I did for her is I went out and I bought like 2 or 3 toys for her grandkids because we had such conversations as it relates to her grandkids that I decided to do something like that.
Well, and I know that she has kids. You have to know that information.
Yeah, so,
you have to ask those questions.
So it was different for me, but when I talk to a lot of other corporate employees, they don't do things like that because you're another employee in the hierarchy, but you're never going to get out of those people, or you're never going to develop that relationship if you just look at it as, okay, I'm here, she's there, or he's there. It's never going to work that way. So it's a different perspective where you need to have a relationship, you need to have these communications, and true leaders understand that.
Yeah, build it.
So 2 things. So one, you're talking about the entrepreneur world, right? So
I hate you.
So one of the biggest pitfalls of newer companies, according to the data, is that CEOs of startup companies don't take enough of a hierarchical position. So like having a flat,
everyone's a partner.
Yeah, having a flat hierarchy in a startup is actually bad long term because you actually need somebody that's, hey, look, I know that we're trying to have a happy, kumbaya kind of world, but somebody still has to make decisions. And some
people don't like those.
So CEOs in startup companies that try to do the kumbaya thing don't end up making enough decisions, and that's why they fail.
Some examples are
the other one. Well, I don't know. You have any examples? I'm sure there's probably too many to count. But the other one is that they've done some studies about how like population sizes and like how leadership can work effectively, and around 150 people is about the maximum. Where you can have one person that can empathize and care about the other 149 people and legitimately like earn the respect. Once you start getting past 150 people, then everything kind of falls apart.
So the problem is that's corporate America.
Well, no, that's just a leadership. That's not work environment. That's just like a leadership from like a village, whatever. Like if you're a leader, in general, anything past 150 people, you can't really be invested in every single person.
Well, it's exactly. So it's harder when you have more people to manage. But so one thing about leadership though is, and this is if you talk to a lot of like people. I've read a book by how'd you say his last name? Jeff Bezos.
Bob.
And
low key flex over here, Jeff
Bezos. I read something about him where he runs so many, or he has a hand in so many different arms. So he's like, okay,
he's very hands-on.
So he's like, okay, I have about an hour for this.
Right.
What are the big issues? Let me talk to other people that I have to deal with this. Okay, I'm going to jump to the next department. What are the big issues here? Let me talk to these people. When you run a company like that, or you have so many people underneath you, you can't micromanage and you can't do everything, and you can't take a personalized relationship with everybody. You just have to be more efficient with your time. But not everybody's going to be him. Not everybody's going to be at the top of the line like that. So you have to understand as you grow important elements of leadership in a team. Sometimes being a leader means you make hard decisions, and it's part of the job. And people don't understand that. Like sometimes you can't be liked by everybody, and you're gonna be the bad guy. You have to accept the fact that sometimes people just will never like you, no matter what you do for them. And that's the problem. People want to always be accepted, and you have to realize you just are never going to make everybody happy, I should say.
Yeah,
Well, you
you
can't.
can't get anything done if you need everybody to be happy with you.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a 20% raise, $100,000 fucking bonus, and the reality is that's just not the case. You have to be the bearer of bad news sometimes.
Speaking of bad news, what do we think a little bit about this pardoning of Fauci and Hunter Biden that's going on?
Well, Ricardo, why don't you give us your opinion? And why,
Hold on.
Yeah, why don't you tell us what you feel about So-
next leadership topic is going to be about how you ask for a raise.
Yeah.
Cool.
So why don't you give us your opinion on the Hunter Biden partner and how you feel about it?
All right, so basically on the Hunter Biden issue, like I feel like I can understand compassionately with the guy like he's pardoning his son. What I don't agree with is the talk of pardoning of Fauci and other guys that basically have been targeted for crimes that they have committed. And so like I think that that's a little bit, that's dirty. Like I think Hunter's fine, but you know, all these other guys, like, you know, it has nothing to do with being partisan or going after somebody else. It's completely like if they hid any information or they were like part of what happened, like they should definitely be prosecuted.
Yeah, so with the Hunter Biden pardon, look, if any father is in that position where you can protect your kid,
Yeah, you would
you're
do the same
always
thing.
going to protect your kid.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the things that Joe Biden said over and over and over, he said, I will not pardon my son Hunter. I believe it was gun charges, federal gun charges, and tax evasion or tax issues. So I don't blame Joe Biden for pardoning his kid, because if I was in that position and I can protect my kid, and I can do it by a legal mechanism, because people will turn around and say this is bullshit, but it still is a legal mechanism within the judicial system. So I can understand why he does it.
If your kid smoked crack, would you pardon him?
Well, my whole thing is if it's legal to pardon my kid based on what he did, and I can protect him still,
You do it. Yeah,
I do
I
it.
agree with that.
And I'm sorry, every
I
parent's
agree with that.
Every parent's objective in life is to protect their kids, right? Is to make sure.
Except for the people that kill their kids.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem.
That's definitely a problem.
So that I can understand. Do I agree that, like, you know, he got pardoned like from a non-parent's position? No, I don't agree with that, because it's kind of hypocritical for you to say, I'm not going to pardon him, and then you do it. I understand. But as a father to a kid, I understand it. Now, there's been talk about Fauci, and there's been talk about
No
pardoning
way.
some
I
other...
think people should burn Fauci.
And there's been talk about pardoning some other individuals. I'm gonna
John?
strictly some other people in the government.
Okay.
I'm going to strictly stick to Fauci. The reason why he wants to pardon Fauci is to protect Fauci from what's going to come from the new administration. There's been is Trump and everybody and all these committees, they're going to go after Fauci.
Because he fucked up.
Well, yeah, so there's a lot of things. So I'm reading more and more about how more and more doctors and scientists are coming out, and they're talking about, there's been documentaries now about how Fauci was hiding, that they knew what...
Documentaries like with, like nature documentaries?
No, it has to do with the COVID breakdown and what happened. The
like
origins.
David Attenborough? No.
Okay, I quit with you right now. The whole thing with Fauci is...
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
There's no cocaine anywhere near.
I wish you had at this point.
The whole thing with Fauci is did he, everything that he said and everything that he did, was it ethical? There's tons of doctors and people that said it's not ethical. Tons of people. So one of the biggest things that with Fauci, which I have a major issue is the FOIL request.
What's
the
Freedom of Information Act?
Freedom of Information Act, yeah. So my whole thing is, the problem I have with all this is they were training individuals on how to not respond. And what I mean by that is roundabouts. They were teaching them how to get and evade those requests. That's a problem. The second thing I have a problem with is numerous people talking about the connections and how they knew where the coronavirus started from.
Wuhan.
And how the narrative.
The Wu-Tang Clan had a concert at a lab in China.
I quit.
Dude, I'm so pissed when I was in Saudi.
New York.
I took a work phone that I don't have anymore, but they had a Wuhan, like an acronym for Wuhan, in the hospital. This is in the hospital in Saudi Arabia, right? And this is during COVID, so China's not responsible for COVID. Like, that's all we're being told, right? Like, it's not China. You can't call it Chinese virus. Blah blah blah. Saudi Arabia had an acronym on the wall that said Wuhan, and it was like, wash your hands. I can't remember what it all stood for. I took a picture of my work phone I don't have anymore. I'm so pissed. But it was like, yeah, it was like I think it was like, wear your mask, wash. I don't remember what it was, but it was like.
It's just so the NIH, I think
employees, whatever they leave.
So it's the NIH, which is the major issue. There's multiple.
What does that stand
funding
for? National
Institute of Health.
There you go.
So there's a bunch of issues with grants, with the science that was done there, with the manipulation of viruses. So the problem I have is I feel like we're not being told the truth, and
100%.
And I feel like and I feel like the Republicans and the new administration that's coming in want to get to the bottom of this and want to hold people accountable.
Or they want to appear that they want to get
but
to
my
the bottom.
my problem is, so the whole talk of pardoning Fauci. So there's two elements of this.
No way.
The fact that that's even a conversation
So there's two elements.
makes me want to punch babies.
But this works against it, right?
I would go
One.
for toddlers.
No, there's two elements. One is if you pardon Fauci, right? If you pardon Fauci, shut up for a second. If you pardon Fauci, it goes to show you're hiding something and you're protecting something.
100%. Yeah.
Why would you pardon him?
Yeah,
But this is
why?
the thing, though. The second part of it, if you don't pardon Fauci, though, you're throwing him under the bus. And now any scientist that works in government, that's an administrator or director, is going to be scared shitless, because anything that you do, you know the government, the new administration coming in, will scrutinize you more. So the question is, you're stuck in a rock and a hard place if you're
Between though.
If you're Biden. Because what ends up happening, though, is if you pardon him, the administration's like, and the public perception is, okay, they're hiding something.
Of course.
But if you don't, any scientist or doctor that works off of grants or money from the government, you have to now be careful for the next 4 years going forward, and you have to turn around and say, okay, I'm going to be under scrutiny. Now the administration, even if Trump, his administration passed after 4 years, let's say another Republican wins, okay, I got to be concerned if they're going to prosecute or they're going to go after me on what I'm doing. So you're in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like the moral of the story is like, don't fucking do shady bullshit.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, but that's the whole element. You use NGOs to get around government.
I'm not looking for a blueprint. I mean, just stop doing it.
No, but the problem is, the bigger thing with the pardoning of Fauci is if you're Biden, you're in a rock and a hard place. Do you sacrifice and throw Fauci under, or do you pardon Fauci to protect yourself so they can't talk about it?
Well, now because they can't ask him, and Biden can't get deposition, right?
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, you can't get when you pardon somebody, they're free of any any charges or anything of that nature. So the issue is you're protecting him from getting information. Now there's other ways around it. There's things that you can do. The problem is it goes so much more. Don't ever talk about pizza. Pizza sucks in Indianapolis. As a New Yorker,
I was even looking at the stuffed animals. This is where I'm pizza.
Mike sleeps with stuffed animals. What the fuck is wrong with
Yeah,
you?
but that's what I'm saying. You didn't even see the stuff in and was worried about the za. Like,
Anyways.
za.
So good, dude.
What's the next topic?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the next topic is pizza. Mike,
I will.
just go off on pizza.
I want to talk about something. Anybody eats pizza in Indianapolis?
All right, speaking
God
of pizza. So the next topic
Pizza pricing.
digital pricing. So I was doing some research and I found and I shared with these guys that there
Hey, I
are
got something.
digital pricing on groceries at grocery stores like Kroger's and Vons and all these places. And so basically, instead of the printed pricing that you're used to seeing with the barcode, what you're going to see is like an LED display, and the pricing is going to change basically as the time of day goes. So as the demand is, so if it's more in demand, like 5 p.m., you're going to pay like twice as much for Goya beans. I'm telling you, dude. What do you guys think about this?
I mean, that's some shady ass boomer shit.
What do you think,
I
Mike?
mean, boomer. That's what boomers do.
I think it already happens with airline prices.
Give us an example.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Sure, I'll give everybody an example.
For the record,
so
four
everybody-
Big Ten tickets 2 months ago, same price
All
as
right.
his flight to Indianapolis.
Okay, so I'll give you an example of how it happens in the airlines. So,
Ohio State lost
Okay.
to Oregon. I bought tickets.
So Chris bought 4 tickets to the BigTen Championship for us to go to. So when I was looking from New York to fly out to Indianapolis, it was $175. Okay. About a week ago, I was checking the prices. It was still $175, $200. I think it was Tuesday I was looking at. I had some obligations where I could not.
Confirm or deny if you get out of work on Thursday.
I could get out of work. So I waited, and then on Monday I realized, okay, something came up. I could get free. I could fly here. Yada yada yada. The price of the tickets went from $200 to $1,200 fucking dollars. Now, if Google does this great thing where it tells you the historical prices and if the current prices right now are high, in the range, or low. And it said very, very high. So
Yeah, so Thanksgiving travel got fucked up in a bunch of places, one of which is where I was. So San Francisco's airport got shut down Sunday and Monday of Thanksgiving. So half of the western seaboard's airports got shut down Monday and Sunday, and had some impact on Tuesday.
So
that didn't help. And then weather in the Midwest.
So what ended up happening is I decided because
There's a winter
I was
storm
not getting
Tuesday.
in to major corporations, I was going to drive from New York to Indianapolis.
But he learned.
Fuck corporate America.
I was holding the principle. But what ended up happening was I left yesterday and I was on the road for an hour, and then my Apple Maps rerouted, and it said
17 hours.
17 hours to Indianapolis, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Fuck.
And I looked at the Apple Maps and it said severe weather.
How many feet of snow?
Oh, it's only like 3 or 4 feet.
Only
in,
3 feet of
It
snow
was
in
3
Ohio.
feet in Erie, 4 feet in
You would have never
Ohio.
got through that.
I would never. I would have been. Tractor trailers were sliding off the road.
Even with the Cybertruck.
So long story short is I reversed. I went home and I booked my flight for this morning,
How much did it cost?
and it was $700. So the price.
Mine?
went
That's
down.
not bad.
I bought my flight on Sunday and it
So
was
this
$400 round trip.
So this is my problem. As I was on the airplane today, it was literally almost, I would say, it was about 3/4 of the flight was empty. So
Yeah,
what
it's
justified the $700?
DEI.
But, and by the way, I just want to point out, if you went onto the airlines,
Touch me again, I'll lose your hand.
yeah, if you went onto the airlines, it said 1 seat available. I was literally doing this
Bullshit.
10 minutes before the flight took off while we were boarding. It's 1 seat available.
There's probably
I was on
50
the
seats
flight.
available.
It was practically empty.
So, you want to know what's amazing about the conservative part of Oregon?
Tell us.
Where I grew up?
Oh, please give us a. I know you're going to tell us, but tell us
How
anyway.
was your meeting today?
So I was sitting in the airport in Medford on Wednesday when I was supposed to fly back, and I was already number one on the first class standby.
Ooh, first class.
I know it's a puddle.
Yeah,
jumper.
whoa.
It's a puddle jumper flight, so it doesn't matter.
Oh.
But I was already on the standby list. But so I'm standing there,
Big shot, ladies
and
and
the lady goes, "Are there any military people here?" And I look around, nobody puts their hand up, and I was like,
Yes.
yeah." She's like, "We come up front," and I was like eating some like, yeah, okay. And
Peach or something?
I walk up and I was like, "Am I in trouble?" And she was like, "Oh no, we have some open first class seats, and I was gonna bump you up." And I was like, "Oh, cool, I'm already on the standby list." And she's like, "Really?" So, anyways, I got first class.
Cool.
Because
Big
I
shot,
was
big
military.
Good job.
But you know what? That doesn't happen.
What? You're not
The rest of like Portland, Oregon.
What about Portland?
Nothing. I'm not gonna go into it, but it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah. So, anyways, going back to the digital pricing, so basically we were talking about supply and demand. It's the same thing. So it's going to be the same thing in supermarkets. So the problem is when you have less of a supply, the demand.
Yeah, but it's a commodity, bro. Like if you buy a box of fucking Triscuits and it sits on the shelf, it's not worth more at 8 in the morning than it is at 4.
No, it should be $3 fucking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Well,
Saturday.
Because you've already paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the issue is
It's not a John Mayer concert.
No, it's a supply and demand issue. So what they're going to argue and what they're going to do is it's going to be a daily supply,
Yeah, that's
not a delivery supply
Do you
where it's
think
a
this
weekly.
will result in like people revolting?
with riots.
Fuck
Yeah,
right.
dude.
It's going to increase.
Absolutely.
It's going to
If I go to the
increase
store
the
and
cost.
toilet paper is $25 because of fucking COVID, I'm fucking burning some bitches
so-
down.
I would burn the store down with
So
you.
Ricardo and
Burn
myself,
this shit down.
Ricardo and myself years ago had an idea for a website on, selling clothes, and we were talking about the way that
Only
we were,
feet. Oh,
no, we were talking about the digital pricing and how what we would do is we would cap the lowest price that we would have, but we would base the price on the daily. The daily price would fluctuate based on the supply and demand of the product. Whichever one's selling more, we would turn around and obviously increase the price. Whatever's
Sucks.
selling less, we lower the price. That's the same thing here. They're going to still cap the lowest price of this commodity to still be profitable.
Well, what they're gonna do is they're gonna use
yeah.
it to influence behavior and say like, at these times when sales are low, we're going to lower the price so people that are looking for a bargain will come in and fill in the traffic.
Let me ask you a question. If it's lowest at 8 o'clock at night, are you going to go into the grocery store and buy your groceries at 8 o'clock in the night?
No.
Yes,
Exactly.
I will.
So they know this. They already have the data. They
I
realize they can get the
I'm not
maximum.
doing it at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, but why are you looking at me with that fucking hat on?
My bad.
So my whole thing is they're gonna look at this. They're gonna look at this as a way to make more money by saying, okay, the supply is highest at this
Of
time.
course. They're not going to do anything that's not going to make
It's a corporate.
Well, so like imagine, so toilet paper is a perfect example. And I know it's fucking hilarious to talk about toilet paper, but like imagine COVID toilet paper. Remember?
And
Toilet
water.
paper was
And
fucking
water.
disturbingly fucking
cares?
scarce.
People were buying it
Imagine-
Wash your ass in the sink.
Imagine if during COVID, when they did that whole you can only buy one at a time because the demand was so high, that like toilet paper was 1,000% more expensive than it normally is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Imagine that scenario. That's what we're talking about. Because
I'm
they would
imagining-
basically change the price of the commodity based on the demand.
It's not good.
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
I want that guy who makes $10 an hour to go through with a little fucking thing
You
and
get a beeper.
stamp fucking shit with a
No,
piece of
I
paper.
agree.
I agree. What do you guys think about school versus the real world? I'm thinking that like the stuff you teach in school nowadays, a lot of people are being homeschooled.
Versus the real world, like
like real world, Real World San Diego on MTV.
Carmen San Diego.
where in the real world is Carmen San Diego.
Oh, hold on. Keep going. We're going. Oh, I thought you were going to keep dancing.
Oh, what?
Kid.
Hey, by the way, Oregon and Penn State, we're gonna be sitting next to each other.
Yeah,
at
I'm wearing the
games.
same sweater.
We're gonna pretend to beat up Mike because
You
everybody
can't
else is
beat
gonna
me
be
up.
Oregon.
You can beat me up in darts, but you're not gonna beat me up. No, this is my topic.
What's your topic? What you got?
What do I have?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that Real Madrid or is that Real?
Yeah.
World?
A Real World? A Real Madrid?
Okay, stop with the whiskey.
Yeah, you gotta lock it down, man.
Yeah.
Oh, lock you down.
Lock it down. You need to go
So,
drink a fucking
this is-
Celsius
this
or
is-
something, man. You're fucking.
This
on
is
the
my
burn.
topic. So this is something that I want to talk with a lot of people about because it's an important topic. When you go to school, undergraduate, graduate, master's, whatever the case, for me it was my law school. School teaches you to think a certain way, and it tells you everything is done in a certain perspective. It's done this way. You know, A is B, B is C.
Linear thinking.
Yeah, B is C, C is D.
Super linear.
So the problem with that thought process is it's not applicable in the real world. A could be C,
Too much
A could
ambiguity.
be is
Way
D.
too much ambiguity in the real world.
And I sometimes, which bothers me, is you're being taught these things which are not applicable in your everyday job. So I'll give you a perfect example. I work in the legal world.
No.
I'm gonna slap you.
Tell me more, bro.
So in the legal world, law school tells you that, you know, okay, you have to file this by a certain deadline. There's no way around it. You
Right,
can't
yeah.
get an extension.
Laws
You
are
can't do this.
viable.
If you don't, if you miss that
End of the
deadline,
world.
it's the end of the world. Exactly.
end of
If
the
you're
world.
making fun of me right now, I'm gonna throw this drink on you. But long story short is that's not how it is in the real world.
Right. Yeah. There's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's always differences. A lot of the things I learned in law school, which is the case law is fine, but each state has different case law. But it was what law school told me was, if you do not do this, you're going to be a failure as a lawyer.
Oh, that's fucked up.
And the problem is, it's the same thing in academia. If you don't take these steps, you're going to be a failure in the real world. You got to do this. And what my point is, no, you won't be a failure. Everybody chooses a profession or sometimes falls into a profession and they're successful at things, not because the book said, the teachings in a book say you're going to be successful. No. Everybody falls in, they learn on the job, and they learn what's successful. The ways to be successful. I'm sick of academia telling you that you're only going to be successful if you follow their thought process. That's not how it is. I know more millionaires just from being an attorney and meeting them from doing litigation on their businesses, and they didn't go to school. They realized there was a niche. They realized there was an opportunity, and they were successful at that. And they did not follow the book. You don't have to listen to what the book says. You don't have to listen to what university says. Now, there's unique things about universities. Universities allow you to open your thoughts and open your mind to possibilities. I don't want to say universities are not a good thing, but everything that they tell you, teachers, that their curriculum, what they say to you, do not take it as the ruling of everything you do in life. I am one of those people that look at universities. I think it's good in certain perspectives, but I also think when you get in the real world, gray areas are gray areas that can be in good and bad. But in the real world, the application of your job is completely different from an academia or a professor tells you.
So, I don't disagree in a lot of ways, but here's kind of the issue, right? So you have multiple problems in the academic world, right? First of all, when academia was started, or earlier on in our country's history, the people that were teaching were like actively involved in whatever profession we're talking about. So like blacksmithing. Lawyers were teachers that were teaching law were lawyers, right? And teachers that were teaching engineering, like build bridges or whatever the fuck, right? And we have slowly progressed away from that, where the people in academia don't have any practical application of their knowledge. They're experts in their academic field, only in academic.
Only in peer-reviewed studies.
Right. They don't have any practical application of their academia. And so what you want in a vacuum, right, in a perfect scenario for the academic community, is you want every teacher to teach not only the curriculum, which is like the black and white, like the do not, the no go and go criteria. You also want to have their own flavor on like, hey, by the way, when you file fucking, whatever extension or whatever the fucking paperwork it is for law specifically, hey, by the way, you know that the 24-hour deadline that's assigned is not a hard line. You can really get away with like 48 hours if you call the judge ahead of time or whatever the fuck, right? And that's the implied curriculum in academic, teaching. We don't have that anymore. It's all, and a lot of it is, unfortunately, helicopter parents complaining about the curriculum.
Yeah.
Because you can't, so like when you teach the gray area and like Professor A teaches it differently than Professor B, teachers complain, or parents complain. Oh, well, my student was in fucking Professor A's class and he like teaches this, and like I had Professor B class, so I couldn't prepare my fucking child for Professor A's classes, and so he didn't do well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we want Professor A to teach something different than Professor B, but we also want them to compare notes and like do,
cohesive.
It's supposed to be like a collaborative thing, and it's supposed to be informing the students. Primarily, the main focus is there is a line of information that they have to learn, and everything past that is experience.
Yeah,
and you want teachers to like teach them some of the experience that kind of like is over whatever the minimum criteria is, but they still have to learn the minimum. And we've basically moved the minimum goalpost so far to the left.
For lowest common denominator.
I have to, so there's one point you made that I have to talk, hits it on the head. There are, when I was in law school, there were tons of professors that never practiced law.
Well, fuck those guys.
And they graduated, they passed
They
the
know
bar,
how
but they
what the
never,
book says.
They never practiced in front of a judge, they never practiced in front of they had
They've
no
never
idea.
been in a deposition.
But they were going to tell you, so the unique thing,
they're like,
I can tell you, the
you
unique
know that
thing,
when you go to court, you're like,
yeah,
fuck you, bitch.
the unique
You know,
thing,
bitch.
unique thing is when I started
guy.
practicing, the best teacher was the trial by error. Because what you don't any job you start, you're not going to know everything.
No,
you're going to
no.
make mistakes.
Because all jobs
You
are
just
very
remember
specific.
and you learn from those things. I remember I had a teacher in law school, and it had to do with answering a complaint, which is one of the, like, you like, at the beginning of any lawsuit, you get a complaint, someone's complaint, you respond to every allegation.
You say, fuck you, bitch.
Okay? I remember a teacher told me in law school that you can't ask for an extension of time to that complaint. You have to respond within the federal rules of the CPL law.
Bullshit.
And I remember in law school, I was like, wow, you can have malpractice, you can get... The first thing I did when I got to my firm, the attorney, the equity
Which firm is
partner-
that?
I'm not gonna say it. It
Close.
was big law. It was big law. But I'll put it though, it was big law.
Bob's Law.
So remember the first time I had a complaint come in. He goes, call plaintiff counsel, send him a stipulation for an extension of time for 30 days so we can get more information.
Wait, what? That's possible?
I was like, shit.
Professor
I remember my
Dukes also
professor
said
telling this.
24 hours.
He even said to me, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That is malpractice. That was a law school teacher. And I remember that to this day. It sticks out in my It sticks out in my mind to this day. And that's the problem with a lack of academia. They will tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you can't do these opportunities. And you know what the funny thing is?
What's the funny thing?
Most of the successful people go against the grain. They don't want to hear that you can't do this.
No,
they want to
absolutely
say,
not.
okay, how are we going to do
How
this?
can we do it?
And the problem is I feel like a lot of the professors that are at these universities, they just don't have that experience. They don't understand it, but they're willing to tell you you can't do it because they're afraid
They're
to
trying
do
to
it.
keep you down.
So my problem is academia teachings compared to the real world just so different. And my point to everybody that's listening that actually watches one of our reels, one of our shorts, whatever the case is just remember The real world, you have endless opportunities. You have to learn. Don't listen to what you're told in academia. Don't listen to what schools tell you. It's possible. You have to learn by trials and tribulations, but you have to learn by failure in a lot of areas. But more so, just remember, what you're taught in school doesn't always have the application in the real world. So don't get discouraged.
Well, I mean, realistically, I mean, to that point, I mean, who gives a fuck what school you get a degree from? Because, like, if you have a degree from Harvard, or you have a degree from Ponunk fucking university, from whatever, whatever, I don't know, you know, like,
Pignut?
they both teach you the answer is gray to all the questions in the real world. And so, like, who gives a fuck if you go to Harvard or Louisiana fucking Tech or whatever it is?
Large corporations.
Who cares? Just get it. Look, but you need a degree because you can't really progress, unfortunately, today in society without a degree. It's just not possible. But it really, what if you learn anything? If you're not in a field that has a pedigree, so engineering, law are really the only two, doctors, right? Yeah. The only three, really. Just get a fucking degree. Who gives a shit what it's in? As long as you can prove to an employer that you can do 4 years of bullshit and turn enough of your homework assignments in to get a 2.1 average, then who gives a fuck?
You're fine.
Your master's degree programs, law, engineering, medical degrees, those are different.
Trust me, I did a higher education, and I could tell you this. Higher education was great in certain perspectives. It's opened my mind in certain areas, especially in the legal field. I was able to learn and look at things differently. But the one thing I felt like they were trying to teach in law school was, it has to be done this. This is the only way. These are the things. I had one professor in law school, and I'm not going to say his name. I'd love to give him a shout out because he truly changed my thought process. But he said it's ambiguous. I can't speak right now because I'm drinking. But he was like, you can make
child's tears. He's drinking child's tears.
He basically told me you can make some of the most crafty arguments in any area of law. Doesn't mean you win them all, but you can convince people.
Oh, 100%.
And it was the best advice. He might be. I think he's a professor now in LA from my law school.
University.
He worked in copyright and IP, and he did a lot of litigation for a lot of celebrities. He was a New York attorney that went out to San Diego, and he gave me some great advice, and he left a lasting impression on me. Yeah. And his advice was the best. And he said, the law is this. You can still make your arguments no matter which way possible. Your objective is to defend your client and make the most crucial arguments. Sometimes the court will agree with your arguments.
Yeah.
You still have to make those arguments.
Right.
But the law, you can make unique arguments, especially in trials. And he was one of the few professors that told me that. All the other professors are like, nope, the law's this, it's this way, it's that way, you gotta follow it. And
those people, they live in a fucking world, man. They live in a small box.
I really would love to say this professor's name because he was such a great and influential guy that, I still remember the class where I had a back and forth with him. He made me feel really stupid in the class, but he called me after the class and he was like, "You made a good argument." He goes, "But you got to remember what law is."
But you're wrong.
Wow. No, he goes, "You got to remember what law is." He goes, "I just made a better argument in class in front of everybody." He goes, "You were
wrong."
No, he didn't say you were wrong. He goes,
"No, you weren't wrong."
Shut the fuck up and let me get the point out. He was like. He basically told me, he was like, I just made a more persuasive argument.
Right, yeah.
He was like, you could have won that argument. You just had to do it better in a more persuasive way. And that was the key lesson from it.
That's what I'm saying. Like you weren't wrong.
Shut up!
He just argued it better than you did.
He did. He did.
And we've seen that a lot of times in practical application in life where like, you're not wrong, but like, You just, you know.
Yeah, so
It just wasn't perceived the right way or whatever.
his first name might have started with a K, his last name might have started with a J.
But like what I
That's
noticed in the academic world, right? So like, you know, I went to a boarding prep school at a 2.3 average. Could have done better.
Wait, did you play basketball like Kobe Bryant?
I did actually, and I did my undergrad at Embry-Riddle. I had like a 2.8 or whatever because it's all busy work. It's all fucking bullshit where it's just like complete fucking assignment A and wicket B and blah blah blah, and there's not a lot of critical thinking and not a lot of creative ideas, whatever. And I was like, oh my god, fucking, I'm like a factory worker. Stamp, 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 stamp. You know what my GPA in my master's degree was?
What?
Sitting. 3.9.
Yeah.
I got 1 B in all A's because it's like a completely different world.
I think it was.
They want creative. They want out of the box thinking. They want you to like think critically, and it is not that way for your undergrad. Your undergrad is
Easy.
A, B, C, D.
Turn stuff
A.
in.
This was the thing. So in law school, they give you your final exam. Everything's predicated on your final exam. They give you an exam. They give you a problem. You have to answer the problem in a format. You could be totally wrong. Where if you were right, like for example, it might say negligence, and they would ask you, is this person negligent? Yes or no.
But you can argue
And the
your way out of
answer,
it. Yeah.
the answer could be is 100% yes, but you can answer no and make the best argument.
Right.
So I agree with you in so many perspectives. So law school was where I did better than my undergraduate.
Right.
What do you?
I don't even know I have a sharpener.
I quit. I quit. Well, Greg, come back over here, please.
I think Ricardo's gonna kill us in our sleep now.
I feel like that when he's sharpening the steak knives.
No, but 100%. I mean, like, I feel like in the postgraduate world, there's much more room for your critical thinking, your creativity, your, you know, ability to think outside the box. But that doesn't exist in your undergrad. Your undergrad is, can you put the round peg in the round hole? Can you put the square peg in the square hole? And can you do it consecutively for 4 years? And then we'll give you a piece of paper.
I have to say this. My law school, I stood out like a sore thumb.
Well, yeah, because you're, you know.
No, I mean
I won't
because
say it.
because they expected you to think a certain way.
That's not what I was going to say, but it's fine.
So my law school expected you to think a certain way.
Right, yeah.
And I did not do that. I went to a law school where everybody was in a bubble. It was everybody thought the same way, and I was the outside guy. And what I mean by that is my thought process from real world experiences was so different, and I challenged the status quo.
Right.
And let me tell you, man, it was an awkward feeling being at that law school because I would just bring in things that people did not understand. I have some great stories about how certain conversations and certain things went, and I won't forget them to this day. But I stood out like a sore thumb, and people complained about me left and right. Now, some of the things that happened that I got complaints on, like it was just kid stuff.
Right.
But if you challenge the status quo and you say certain things where they're telling you that it's supposed to be X, Y, and Z, but you challenge it and say, well, no, that's not how it really works, because I know firsthand that's not how it works, they don't like it. And you get targeted, and that's, you know, certain people definitely happen towards me in a lot of areas, but I will say, good times, bad times, but the one thing I am very thankful for is that when you have real world experiences and you're told that through academia it's supposed to be this way, A, B, C, D, and you realize it's not always that way, you can compare, you can understand, you can see the differences. It's important to understand it. It's important to understand that things are not always that way.
Yeah, but I feel like, I mean, not that I disagree with you, but I feel like part of the problem is that kind of thinking isn't taught in normal school. So like, you don't get that critical thinking sort of skill in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get to college and you have that sort of environment where they allow you to think outside the box, that it's kind of frowned upon. It's
No, I agree.
kind of squashed.
Click the next topic. Go all the way to the right.
Which one?
It's all the way to the right, all the way up.
This one?
No, keep going up. If you go all the way up, there's another topic up there.
Wait.
Keep going.
Hold on.
Move that way.
Am I going the wrong way?
No, you're doing it right. You just gotta go. Because Ricardo's over there. Sit.
Oh, I'm going for mistakes.
Hold on, you're sitting on
What am I saying?
my phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. So,
Oh, sorry.
our last topic.
United. Oh yeah, this guy.
Yeah, so let's have a nice little conversation about how crazy this is.
I gotta pee.
Huh?
Pete.
So, if anybody.
Talk yourself.
Yes,
What are you
Ricardo's
doing,
making
Ricardo?
mistakes and.
I'm trying to grill on.
You literally making mistakes.
Yeah.
Holy shit. He wasn't kidding. I don't know. I gotta pee. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Take a second. And this is how you run a successful podcast. Hey, Ricardo, it's great to see you. How much do you have to drink, dude?
Too much.
Yeah, I can tell.
I'm making a mistake, you motherfucker.
Unbelievable.
You're gonna be delicious.
I know. All right, everybody. I'm going to start this topic while everybody else is doing something. If you haven't been aware, the United, I think it's Healthcare's CEO was shot in New York, right outside of the Hilton. There's, it's kind of concerning, especially in New York City where you have a lot of crime. One of the things that's concerning mostly about this is he was shot in broad daylight. He was shot with a pistol. He,
Did you actually plug in?
I have no idea how to turn it on.
Did you put the propane tank in? No. There's no propane connected to the grill, and it's on, Mike.
so Ricardo's trying to make steaks right now without any propane in the grill. Ricardo is throwing steaks on the grill with nothing, so I don't know what he is making the steaks.
I'm still seasoning, bitch.
Oh, you're still seasoning? I'm a little concerned about that one. But anyways, getting back to what I'm saying, so the United Healthcare CEO got shot in Midtown at night. It seems like it was a execution style. The individual that shot him shot I think it was one round at a time. He looked like he had some trouble with the loading or cocking the gun several times, which indicated that he kind of had experience with shooting guns, the way he was able to unjam the gun. He also basically registered under a hotel with a fake New Jersey ID. In addition, he also had gloves on. He did not have a phone with him. I think there was also reports that he was able to scurry out of the area through an alleyway and onto a bicycle where the surveillance footage was spotty. So he's able to get away. I think this is very concerning just in general in the limelight because this is a CEO of a major company shot in basically in New York, which is one of the busiest cities, if not in the world. And literally the guy is basically able to get away. But more so, he killed the CEO with a silencer on. So I feel like this is kind of this is pre-planned. It is shocking. It's all over the news in New York. I can't remember the last time there was a CEO that got shot in, especially in the most modern times. Chris is a little bit more familiar with the military kind of tactics. Maybe he can give a little bit of input on why this is a little bit fishy and it's not like a spur of the moment sort of thing.
Well, so part of the problem is that there are tons of people out there that have access to all kinds of equipment that have no intent of using it in this kind of way. And yet, it still happens, right? And so the fact that the guy was shot, to me, is not really how he was shot. That's not what's telling. What's telling is that something got so bad that somebody felt that that was the only outlet.
Or revenge.
Right, and or revenge possibly, because the reality of it is that like there's enough people and equipment out there in the world that if you wanted to commit a crime and get away with it, it's not that difficult. Oh, some of the military weapons out there.
Did you put the propane tank in?
I did.
Oh, okay.
It's on now. You have to wait a while though, Ricardo.
Okay.
Wait until temperature hits like 500 degrees for it to throw those Batman pajamas on. So there's a lot of military weapons that are sold in a civilian sector, like so the M9 for example, or Beretta, right? It's a pistol. We shoot with it all the time in the military, but you can buy it. You can buy it in a gun store, right? Mm-hmm. I could theoretically shoot my service pistol on the firing range. I could buy the same pistol or a similar pistol from a civilian store and just swap the barrels between the two, and there's not a fucking court in the world that's gonna get access to my service pistol in the armory for search and seizure.
Let me ask you a question. Going back to this situation. Let me ask you a question.
Those are not your fucking classes.
No.
So let me ask you a question though. The way that he carried out the shooting, do you think this was pre-planned or?
100%. You don't carry a fucking silencer.
So my question though is, it clearly was, well, he knew a route, right? Where there weren't surveillance cameras, where it was spotty. He clearly knew that there was, what time, where this guy was coming out.
Yeah.
He so, I
premeditated as fuck. There's no question premeditated.
Yeah, so it's definitely premeditated. So the thing that scares me a little bit more is New York City. I mean, unless you have a permit,
was it 12 million people or whatever?
Yeah, that's a lot. So the question is, it's New York City. It's in a very busy area. It's also in New York City, unless you have a permit, a open carry permit, you can't carry a gun around. So obviously, clearly, this person maybe potentially is not from the area, and he had an illegal firearm, or he had a firearm permit. Don't know. The thing that scares me is this guy's the CEO of a major corporation. Okay. I feel like it's motivated by unhappiness, like there was something that went wrong. Yeah. Family member that covered didn't get covered, or himself, he didn't get covered when it came to the healthcare. But the problem with me is, okay, all of a sudden we just go out and we take revenge in our own hands. I think this is not the right way, but there's not enough facts here. But I think the problem is, you're in New York City, and there is a high-profile person like this person, and he is gunned down in the street. That is, I'm talking, we're in Grand Theft Auto.
Look, from somebody who was bullied to the point where I almost shot myself, it's hard for me to look at today's society with all these trolls, all these people that are like just saying absolutely horrendous things online. People who feel, and look, I'm not accusing the CEO of doing anything illegal, to be clear. But it seems like this person was wronged somehow. And the CEO may be ultimately the fall guy, but and maybe he didn't do anything wrong. But
I just want to clarify a legal note. we are assuming that he was wronged in some
Yeah, we don't know. We
Based
don't
on
know.
everything,
We have no idea. But like, let's say for argument's
just seems
sake,
fishy.
let's say for argument's sake that this guy was wronged and he shot the CEO because he felt like that he was the responsible party for the wrong that was committed, right? And what is frustrating is that regardless of whether that CEO is at fault, what we're seeing way too much nowadays are corporations and companies and people doing thing to screw people over and getting away with it.
Shareholder value.
Right? And so to me, I honestly, I mean, I don't want to condone shooting somebody in the fucking street in New York City. But there is something to be said about the fact that, hey man, if you're doing fucking shady shit, like,
I understand.
You might get shot.
So I understand where you're going with this, and I agree.
Don't
with
you
you
shoot
somewhat.
shit.
But the problem is we still don't know who this person is. We still don't know the motives. We still don't know like why he did it, what the circumstances are. I agree with you. There has to be accountability on corporations for some of the things that are going on.
100%. This isn't the accountability that we're talking about. Yeah.
Don't use violence.
Yeah.
But the problem is, in this case, we still don't know anything. And the thing that concerns me is if you look at like certain things that have happened most recently, assassination attempts on presidents or ex-presidents, things that are going on right now, it is very, very concerning.
Apparently the mic sucks or whatever.
It's very, very concerning the fact that there is a trend where if you don't get away, there's violence. All right. I think we hit all of our topics. Ricardo is currently outside.
Fuck Alabama.
Yeah, pretty much. I hate Alabama. Fuck Tuscaloosa.
Steak. This is steak over and over.
Yeah, I would put that on the bottom.
Is it 500 degrees?
Nope.
No. So more of the story is thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
All three of you, fucking motivators.
Yeah, really appreciate it. We'll be back next Thursday, same time. We'll give you an update of the BigTen Championship game from our experience, along with new insights and topics to talk about. Chris obviously talks about leadership. I talk about mostly football. And Ricardo makes steaks most of the time.
He's our executive chef.
Yeah.
He sucks. He sucks at cooking.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on our Instagram page. We are currently working on other platforms, and be sure to follow us on YouTube, where Chris makes some lovely shorts where he compares himself to Kobe Bryant.
Hey, I thought it was awesome.
I thought it was great as well.
Stop having sex with children.
All right, everybody, have a great night. Thanks so much.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.